Are you ready for the G20?
Calls. They're looking for jailhouse doctors. They're fearing of what what kind of weaponry these the police can have. Could have a lot of people injured, especially after being arrested. They're hoping that people will get medical treatment if they're pepper sprayed and all kinds of stuff. This is the kind of warnings you're getting. Robots, dogs, chemists, cops. What can they do? What can they figure out? Well, one thing that they figured out is that the false scare that took place last week or the week before involving a large quantity of fertilizer was definitely a false scare, because the guy apparently turned himself in. He's just a farmer, but they were already gone into panic mode as if this was a terror suspect.
The U.S. State Department says that there is a potential for large-scale demonstrations both before and during the summit. It says previous summits have drawn large numbers of protesters and activists, and it notes that already a number of groups have said they plan to demonstrate here in Toronto, and they warn that even if those demonstrations are meant to be peaceful, they often turn violent and unpredictable, and they're warning them to stay away from them, avoid them at all costs. They also talk about the security zone in downtown Toronto. We've already seen those massive cement barriers and all the security fencing that's already up downtown. Well, they say that's going to cause traffic disruptions, public transit disruptions. They're actually warning their citizens to avoid downtown Toronto during the summit, if at all possible. They're also warning them that the Canadian government is likely to step up security checks at our borders. So they're saying if you are coming to Canada, make sure that you have valid travel documents. So an unusual move today by the U.S. State Department that travel alert.
Let's flip it over. We know that derivatives are a major thing in the financial market. So we're wondering if the G20 can regulate derivatives. Well, it doesn't sound like they're going to eliminate them, but we'll see what they announce in terms of regulations, because we know, and as we were recorded in a video a few weeks ago, the currency is a major topic of discussion. What we're seeing is possibly economic warfare going on. We're seeing China and the U.S. clashing over the issue of the currency. And that has to do a lot with the bonds. It's got to do with the Federal Reserve. It's got to do with Hu Jintao, current leader of China, as well as the former head of the Federal Reserve, who's still around. We'll see if he who knows who's going to arrive at a G20 summit. It's not just 20 leaders that are here. It's actually saying there could be up to 20,000 delegates here, journalists, and even characters like George Bush, they're saying, could be entering.
They're not talking to the media, and they're warning the public.
All right, let's go through this time. Okay, but make sure you have your ID card, okay?
They're stopping pedestrians,
thank you,
drivers, and people who work in the so-called red zone.
Do you have your work ID? How about a piece of work ID? Yeah.
Here we go.
Julie Williams says it's a sight she didn't want to miss.
It looks neat to me. Like, that's why I'm down here taking pictures.
Why do you think what's the neat part of it for you?
All the officers and their uniforms.
There's a lot of them, huh?
Oh, is there ever?
But for tourists like Zoran Pavic, who is a police officer himself in Croatia, it's all a little much.
Toronto, it's a wonderful town, but I don't know what's that.
A police state, rise up, rebel. Demonstrators converged on a gas station as part of their protest yesterday. Activists met with media this morning to outline their concerns about the G20 and explain why they plan on holding demonstrations every day leading up to the summit.
The only way we can get our message across is by disrupting things. That's the only way that they'll pay attention when it costs them something to keep ignoring us. And that's why we're marching with other justice-seeking groups this week to disrupt the G20 and to disrupt this city so that people wake up to the kind of violence that disabled people are facing every day.
And with the G20 fast approaching, some people are preparing for the very worst. Let's go live now to CP24 special G20 correspondent Craig Keilburger, our guide through everything G20. You're in Kensington Market. What are you up to?
I am indeed. I'm at AAA Military Supplies, and this is run by Ike, who's been in the business for 47 years now. Earlier today, we interviewed some members of the Toronto Police to give an idea of the preparations that they're undertaking. And as they said, it's not only for their own safety, but for the safety of the public. Last night, behind the scenes, some of the members of the press were outfitted and taught how to use gas masks. We want to give you, the average viewer, a little bit of the behind-the-scenes look. And so Ike here very kindly has offered to outfit, as a journalist, to be fully ready. We are reaching for a vest, and do tell, what would we use this for?
This is 16 to 18 pockets. You've got lots of pockets to put water bottles, different materials in the vest.
Thank you. Okay, and
these come in about 20 different patterns and colors, all the way from green, black, camouflage, orange for hunting, etc.
I'm sure this would fit easily in there.
Absolutely.
Gas masks, perhaps?
That's an Israeli, which is a good mask.
Israeli?
But I recommend the Made in Canada M69 mask, which is probably one of the best masks.
We believe in supporting local. I love the Made in Canada.
Absolutely, Made in Canada. You put your chin in first.
Okay.
Hang on. We got to go over a little bit. Get your eyes over the... That's right. Now, these are all adjustable.
Okay.
And this comes out so you can breathe. This is the filter, which has charcoal in it.
Okay.
And you should be able to breathe properly now.
Well, I can breathe, but I can't speak. So let me remove that one for the moment. Gas masks, helmets, extra vests. All I can say is, you know, I have the pleasure to be a special correspondent right now for CP24, but it's still an activist, and I've attended a number of protests for issues over my course of the years. And the best protests are always peaceful ones.
Staged yesterday, I think we saw, you know, the police were there to make sure that everything went orderly, and I think we're all comforted by the fact that that the protesters made their statements. The disruption in the city was certainly minimal compared to the disruption that the fences and other decisions have had caused, and I'm confident that the strategy that's been detailed to us is being executed in a really positive way, and so, you know, we're all prepared for the worst and hoping for the best, and you know, I've got confidence that our police force is ready to manage the situation as well as they can.
So how do people prepare for the worst?
Well, we're at a store, AAA Army Surplus, where we've been looking at some of the gas masks and hearing there has been an uptick in sales, and they mentioned that after 9/11 or whenever there's a time of fear that people start reaching for these type of items. The protesters we've been speaking with have often said that they're trying to get their voices heard, that there have been broken promises, especially around international development issues. And earlier today, we were talking with John Tory, politician, of course we know him as, but now a citizen himself, about how do ordinary citizens hold their governments accountable, especially something as big as the G20, to make sure that they fulfill those promises.
People might have money, they have their voice, but in the end, people have to decide this is important and speak up, and tell politicians, look, if you don't address this matter, if you don't keep your promise, if you don't do something I think is important on healthcare, the environment, or whatever, I'm going to hold you to account. Unfortunately, while we can blame politicians for a lot of things, we don't take our own responsibilities as seriously as we might in terms of not only saying we're going to make you pay if you're not accountable, but then following through.
How do you feel about the Berlin Wall being infiltrated in Toronto, being put in a prison city? Is this freedom? Intense security? You have to give up your freedoms, right?
It looks like everything's in hand. Now, there's some protesters who say we don't like the fences, but, you know, listen.
The fences were ordered by Ottawa. The fences are part of a sort of a standard sort of protocol that Ottawa is compelled to act on to a certain degree with their foreign arrangements with foreign heads of state and their obligations to protect foreign heads of state while in Toronto or in the country. So, you know, there are some edges to this which I think, you know, confront all of us who live in the downtown core. But I think that you know, if we can grin and bear it for a couple of days, I think we'll get ourselves through this.
Let's talking about grinning and bearing it for the next few days. You brought along a press release about school closures. I mean, are decisions still being made in an ad hoc manner?
Well, because of the way the federal government has planned this, which is with virtually no consultation with local authorities and virtually no advance notice, we haven't had the ability over months to sort of put together a game plan. And so as the anxiety starts to grow and it starts to cascade as one group after another makes big decisions, the school board, with no notice to the city, let alone anyone anyone else, announced that not only were busing going to be suspended on Friday, but there are a handful, a half dozen schools, mostly in my ward, that have been closed for Thursday and Friday all day. There are a substantial number of parents in these schools who work in the hotel and hospitality sector, who work in the hospital sector, and they're on duty. So we've scrambled over the last couple of days working with our community centers to find 325 daycare spots for kids kindergarten to grade 8. I think it's an obligation of the city to pick it up. We hope the federal government will compensate us. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but